In the heart of a small, bustling town, a wedding day filled with joy and celebration was about to take a turn no one expected. Among the laughter and music, a stray dog sat quietly outside the grand wedding venue. He wasn't begging for food or barking for attention. He simply waited, his soulful eyes fixed on the entrance. At first, the guests dismissed him as just another stray. But as the hours passed, the bride herself noticed the dog's unwavering presence. Something about his calm yet determined demeanor tugged at her heart. Why was he there? What could he possibly want on this special day? What unfolded next was a story no one at the wedding would ever forget. It was a tale of loyalty, heartbreak, and a reunion that would leave every guest, and you, tearing up. Stay with us as we unravel the mystery behind the stray dog who sat outside a wedding venue and discover the powerful lesson of love and kindness he left behind. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories that will renew your faith in humanity. The wedding venue was a vision of beauty, a historic mansion surrounded by vibrant gardens bursting with flowers in every color. Twinkling fairy lights adorned the trees, and soft music floated through the air. Guests dressed in elegant attire laughed and mingled as the sun began to dip below the horizon. Amidst this picture-perfect scene, an unlikely figure stood out. A scruffy, brown-haired dog with a shaggy coat that seemed in desperate need of grooming. He sat at the entrance, just beyond the stone archway, his tail wagging ever so slightly each time someone walked by. He didn't bark or beg for food. Instead, he sat quietly, his gaze fixed intently on the doorway. The wedding staff tried to shoo him away several times, but he always returned, sitting in the exact same spot. The guests started to notice. "Why won't he leave?" one whispered. "Is he hungry?" another suggested. But no one could explain the dog's behavior. Inside the venue, the bride, Emily, was adjusting her veil in front of a grand mirror. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement, and her gown sparkled under the soft chandelier light. Her mother entered the room with a concerned look. "There's a dog outside, sweetheart. He's been sitting there all evening." Emily raised an eyebrow. "A dog? At a wedding?" She chuckled but felt a tug of curiosity. When the ceremony began, the dog's presence became impossible to ignore. As Emily walked down the aisle, arm in arm with her father, her eyes flickered toward the archway. There he was, still sitting there, watching her with those soulful eyes. The ceremony continued beautifully, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this dog was more than just a stray. When the vows were exchanged, a soft whimper came from the doorway, catching the attention of the crowd. Some guests turned, their expressions filled with confusion and curiosity. Others brushed it off as coincidence. But Emily knew something was different. After the ceremony, she walked toward the dog, still in her wedding dress, her heart pounding with an unexplainable mix of nervousness and anticipation. As she approached, the dog stood up slowly, wagging his tail. Up close, Emily could see the age in his cloudy eyes and the exhaustion in his movements. When she knelt down and gently extended her hand, the dog nudged it with his nose and let out a soft whine. That's when Emily noticed it, a faded tag hanging from the worn collar around his neck. It wasn't just any tag. What was inscribed on it would reveal a connection Emily never could have imagined. What does the tag say, and why is this dog so determined to stay? Emily's hands trembled as she turned over the dog's faded tag, struggling to read the scratched letters. Finally, she made out the inscription, "Buddy." If found, please return to 45 Oak Ridge Lane. Her breath caught in her chest. Oak Ridge Lane was her childhood street, the place she had grown up in before her family moved away years ago. She looked closer at the dog's weathered face, his cloudy eyes now brimming with something that looked like hope. Could it be? Guests gathered around as Emily whispered, "Buddy?" She remembered that name. As a little girl, she used to play with a neighbor's golden brown puppy who loved chasing after her as she rode her bike. That was nearly a decade ago. Could this be the same dog? Her mother stepped closer, covering her mouth in shock. "Emily, that's Mr. Hargrove's dog, isn't it? He was your favorite." Emily nodded, tears welling in her eyes. Mr. Hargrove had been their elderly neighbor, a kind man who lived alone after his wife passed away. Buddy had been his loyal companion. But after Emily's family moved away, they had heard that Mr. Hargrove fell ill and had to leave town to live in a nursing home. No one knew what had happened to Buddy. The realization hit Emily hard. Buddy must have stayed behind, waiting at their old house, not knowing that his owner would never return. But how had he ended up here at her wedding? Neighbors from the street began to chime in. "That dog's been wandering for years," said an older man who recognized Buddy. "He always stays near Oak Ridge Lane. Some of us tried to take him in, but he'd always run off. It's like he was searching for someone." The guests were now fully invested in the story, murmuring amongst themselves. "He must have recognized Emily," someone said. "Dogs never forget the people they love." Emily's heart ached as she knelt before Buddy, stroking his matted fur. She couldn't imagine how much he had been through. Years of loneliness, searching, waiting. But why had he chosen to show up here today at this very moment? Miss Jenkins, an elderly neighbor who still lived on Oak Ridge Lane, stepped forward. "He probably smelled your scent," she said softly. "Dogs have an incredible memory for things like that. And after all this time, he must have followed it here, hoping to find you." The story spread quickly through the wedding crowd, and soon, everyone wanted to help. Some offered to take Buddy to a vet, while others brought food and water. Children sat beside him, petting him gently, their little hands careful around his frail frame. But Emily knew this was more than just a stray dog needing help. Buddy was here for a reason. His loyalty and determination to find someone he loved were undeniable. As she looked into his eyes, she realized she couldn't let him down. The situation was bittersweet, though. Emily wondered how she could possibly honor Buddy's loyalty while building her new life with her husband. Could she give him the home he deserved after everything he had been through? As the guests returned to the reception, Emily held Buddy close, tears streaming down her cheeks. She knew she needed to do something to make things right for him. "You waited for so long, Buddy," she whispered. "You don't have to wait anymore." What will Emily do to honor Buddy's loyalty and give him the life he deserves? That night, after the wedding festivities ended, Emily couldn't stop thinking about Buddy. While guests celebrated under twinkling lights, Emily found herself sitting on the steps outside the venue, Buddy's head resting on her lap. Her gown, once pristine, was now wrinkled, but she didn't care. All she could think about was the journey this dog must have taken to find her. Her husband, Alex, joined her, his tie loosened and a curious smile on his face. "Still with Buddy, huh?" he asked. Emily nodded, stroking Buddy's scruffy fur. "I can't get over it, Alex. He waited all these years. He never gave up on us." Alex crouched beside them, scratching Buddy behind the ears. "He's special. I think he's been looking for closure." That word, closure, stuck with Emily. She remembered the joy Buddy brought her as a child, how he would follow her as she ran barefoot through the yard, his wagging tail a constant source of comfort. When her family moved, she had cried for weeks, not just for her friends but also for the dog she thought she'd never see again. But now he was here, and she owed it to him to understand his story. The next morning, Emily and Alex decided to return to Oak Ridge Lane with Buddy. It had been years since Emily had set foot there, and she wasn't sure what to expect. The street was quieter than she remembered, the houses older and less vibrant. When they reached the property where she had once lived, Emily's chest tightened. The house was abandoned, its windows boarded up, and the garden overgrown with weeds. Buddy's tail wagged as he stared at the front door, pulling gently on the leash Alex held. "He remembers," Emily whispered. They decided to let Buddy lead. He sniffed around the yard, moving with a purpose, his nose to the ground as though following a familiar trail. Finally, he stopped near a large oak tree in the backyard and began digging lightly at the dirt. Curious, Emily knelt beside him and brushed the soil away with her hands. There, buried just beneath the surface, was a rusted tin box. Her heart raced as she opened it. Inside were a few small trinkets, a faded photo of Mr. Hargrove with Buddy as a puppy, an old leash, and a note. The note was written in shaky handwriting. "To whoever finds this, Buddy was my best friend. If you see him, please take care of him. He deserves the world. Tears blurred Emily's vision as she read the words. It was a message from Mr. Hargrove, likely written before he had to leave for the nursing home. It was clear he had trusted that someone someday would care for Buddy. Emily hugged Buddy tightly. "He left this for you," she whispered. "He wanted you to be loved." The discovery filled Emily with a sense of responsibility. Buddy had been waiting all this time, through storms, hunger, and loneliness, for a connection to the love he once knew, and now fate had brought him to her. As they walked back to the car, Emily made a silent vow. She would honor Buddy's loyalty by giving him the life he deserved. She turned to Alex, her voice trembling with emotion. "We're taking him home, Alex. He's family now." Alex smiled. "I wouldn't have it any other way." Buddy, as if understanding every word, barked softly, his tail wagging in approval. That evening, back at their house, Buddy lay on a soft bed they had bought just for him. For the first time in years, he looked truly at peace, his eyes closing as he drifted into a deep, contented sleep. Just when things seemed settled, an unexpected visitor arrives at Emily's doorstep, revealing one final secret about Buddy's past. Who could it be? The days following the wedding were full of adjustments as Buddy settled into his new home with Emily and Alex. They pampered him with a soft bed, nutritious food, and plenty of love. Buddy, once weary and worn, now seemed to glow with a newfound happiness. His tail wagged more often, and his soulful eyes carried a spark of joy. One crisp evening, as Emily was preparing dinner, there was a knock at the door. Alex, puzzled by the late-hour visitor, opened it to find an elderly man standing on the porch. His face was lined with age, and he held a cane for support, but his eyes held a familiar warmth. "Is this where Buddy lives now?" the man asked softly, his voice trembling. Emily stepped into the hallway, her heart skipping a beat. "Yes, and you are?" The man smiled, tears brimming in his eyes. "I'm Paul Hargrove. I was his owner a long time ago." For a moment, the room fell silent. Emily couldn't believe it. After all these years, Mr. Hargrove was standing before them. How did you find us?" Emily stammered. Paul explained that a neighbor from Oak Ridge Lane had contacted him after hearing about Buddy showing up at Emily's wedding. "I never thought I'd see him again," Paul said, his voice breaking. "When I had to leave, it was the hardest thing I ever did. I begged the neighbors to take care of him, but it seems Buddy had his own plans. He must have been searching for me, or for you." Emily felt her throat tighten as she looked down at Buddy, who had been sitting quietly by the door. As soon as Paul spoke, Buddy's ears perked up, and his tail began wagging furiously. Slowly, he rose to his feet and approached Paul. "Buddy, it's me," Paul said, his voice thick with emotion. He knelt as best as he could, opening his arms. Buddy let out a small whimper before leaning into Paul, burying his head against his chest. The old man's tears fell freely as he wrapped his arms around his long-lost companion. The reunion was unlike anything Emily had ever witnessed. Buddy, once so stoic and quiet, seemed like a puppy again, wagging his tail and licking Paul's hands. Paul whispered softly, "I'm so sorry I had to leave you, boy. You must have been so lonely." Emily wiped her own tears, touched by the raw love and loyalty between the two. Alex placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, and together, they watched the emotional scene unfold. After a while, they all sat in the living room, and Paul shared his story. "Buddy was more than just a pet. He was my family after my wife passed. Leaving him behind broke me, but I had no choice. I never thought he'd survive all these years, let alone find his way back to the people who loved him." Emily nodded. "He's incredible. The way he waited, the way he searched. It's like he knew this day would come." Paul smiled. "Dogs have a way of knowing. Their hearts are bigger than we give them credit for." As the evening went on, Paul expressed his gratitude to Emily and Alex. "You've given him a home, a family. That's all I ever wanted for him." Emily hesitated, then said, "Would you like to visit him regularly? Or, if you'd like, you could take him back. He clearly loves you so much." Paul looked at Buddy, who was now dozing peacefully at his feet. Shaking his head, he replied, "He's happy here, and honestly, I'm not strong enough to care for him the way he deserves. But knowing he's loved, that's enough for me." Emily nodded, understanding the depth of Paul's sacrifice. "Then he'll stay with us, and you're welcome to visit any time." Paul smiled, tears shining in his eyes. "Thank you. You've made an old man and a loyal dog very happy." As Paul left that evening, Emily felt a profound sense of peace. Buddy had found his closure, his family, and his home. While Buddy's story seems complete, a new chapter begins when Emily discovers something hidden inside the rusted tin box, a letter that holds a final, life-changing message from the past. The next morning, Emily found herself drawn to the rusted tin box they had uncovered beneath the oak tree. Sitting in the soft morning light, she opened it once more, carefully examining its contents. Her fingers grazed over the old photo of Mr. Hargrove and Buddy, the leash, and finally, the note she had read the day before. But as she lifted the note, she realized there was something else beneath it. A folded piece of yellowed paper, tucked neatly at the bottom of the box. Emily unfolded it with care, revealing a longer letter written in the same shaky handwriting as the note. It read, asterisk, "To the person who finds this, I don't know where life will take me or where Buddy will end up, but I want you to know this: he is more than a dog. He is a symbol of loyalty, love, and the bond that keeps us going, even when we feel alone. If you've found this letter, it means you've crossed paths with him, and I hope he's brought you the same comfort and joy he brought me. I've lived a long life, filled with laughter and loss, but the one thing I've learned is this: the ones we love never truly leave us. Whether it's a loyal dog, a cherished memory, or a kind stranger, love has a way of finding its way back to us, even when we least expect it. Take care of him, love him, and remember, sometimes it's the smallest gestures that leave the biggest impact. With gratitude, Paul Hargrove *. Emily's hands trembled as she finished reading. Tears streamed down her face, not from sadness but from the overwhelming beauty of the message. She looked at Buddy, who was lying on the floor nearby, his tail wagging softly in his sleep. He had been a messenger of love, bringing Paul's lesson into her life at the exact moment she needed it most. Later that evening, Emily gathered Alex and the wedding guests who were still in town, including a few of her childhood neighbors, for a small gathering. She read the letter aloud, her voice steady but emotional. As she spoke, she noticed how deeply the words resonated with everyone. Some wiped tears, while others nodded in silent agreement. One of the older neighbors, Miss Jenkins, spoke up after Emily finished. "Paul was right," she said softly. "It's not just about Buddy. It's about what he represents. Loyalty, love, and the courage to wait for what matters most. That's something we all need to remember." The group decided to honor Buddy's story in a meaningful way. Together, they created a small plaque to place under the oak tree where the tin box was buried. It read, "In honor of Buddy, the dog who taught us that love waits, loyalty endures, and kindness changes everything." Buddy's tale began to spread throughout the town, inspiring countless acts of kindness. People who had once overlooked stray animals began offering them food and shelter. Neighbors who hadn't spoken in years started reconnecting. Buddy had become more than just a dog. He was a symbol of hope and love. As for Emily and Alex, their lives changed in ways they hadn't anticipated. Buddy became a cherished member of their family, accompanying them on hikes, curling up at their feet during quiet evenings, and greeting them with unwavering joy every morning. Paul visited often, and each visit was a celebration of the bond they all shared. Months later, Emily reflected on everything that had happened. She realized that Buddy had not only brought her closer to her past, but had also taught her how to cherish the present and embrace the future with open arms. His journey was a reminder that even in moments of uncertainty, love has a way of guiding us home. The story ended not with sadness but with gratitude, for the lessons Buddy had taught and the legacy of love he left behind. Buddy's story reminds us that love and loyalty are timeless. No matter how far life takes us, the bonds we create, whether with people or animals, have the power to shape us and inspire others. In a world often consumed by haste and forgetfulness, it's the small, steadfast gestures, like waiting, hoping, and believing, that make the greatest difference. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to hear more inspiring tales of love and loyalty.